Let's take another look at today's newspapers, and this time we're going to begin in Australia, where devastating bushfires are raging all along the east coast. Clement Bonneau is here to tell us a bit more. Clement, what are you reading?
Yes, at least 3 people have died and thousands have been displaced over the past 3 days. Hell on earth is the headline on the front page of local newspaper The Daily Examiner, alongside a photo of the blaze. The paper tells us that even worse fire conditions are predicted for Tuesday. The bushfires also make it to the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Code Red is the headline. Authorities have indeed issued the highest possible warning for Sydney and the Greater Sydney area, saying the worst of the bushfire catastrophe is yet to come.
Indeed, and we're being told that Tuesday, a key day for Sydney, which is Australia's largest city.
Yes, the Australian reports that the Greater Sydney region will be under catastrophic fire danger for the first time since new fire ratings were introduced a decade ago. At least 30 schools will be closed. Fire service officials quoted in the article highlight the unprecedented nature of the fires following 18 months of drought conditions in Australia. This is not normal, writes a columnist in the Sydney Morning Herald, a former Fire and Rescue Commissioner, saying that urgent action is needed to prevent such catastrophic bushfires in the future. He also accuses Australian politicians of dodging the question of the impact of climate change when there's no doubt as to what caused the fire. He says, "I'm confident that our national government will finally see the obvious and understand the word unprecedented."
Now, you mentioned thousands of people have had to be evacuated, but humans are not the only victims.
Yes, hundreds of koalas have also died in the bushfires. You can see here a heartbreaking picture of a dehydrated koala being cared for in a specialised clinic. Thousands of them had been moved to forests along the east coast by conservationists who believed that they would be safe there. Well, the only good news is that dozens have been saved, and none of the koalas who've been taken to the hospital has died.
Well, let's have a complete change of topic now. Clement, there's been a near unanimous condemnation of Michael Bloomberg in the American papers. This after he announced a possible bid for the presidency next year.
Yes, the 77-year-old billionaire is the latest to throw his hat in the ring, but Americans are not convinced. According to a poll, his possible run is a major flop with voters so far. News website Politico tells us that despite being well known, the former New York mayor is the candidate least favoured by the Democratic electorate. Nearly 25% of likely primary voters view him unfavourably, the highest unfavourable rating in the field. They also place him in 6th place, just behind the Senator Kamala Harris of California. A sentiment which is echoed by several newspapers who view Michael Bloomberg's candidacy as redundant. A columnist writes in USA Today, "Hallelujah, Democrats have just what they need, another presidential candidate who was alive when Harry Truman occupied the White House." The Washington Post is equally sardonic, suggesting 5 better uses of Michael Bloomberg's money. Bloomberg is worth more than $52 billion, says the Washington Post, spending just a fraction of that on projects that would benefit ordinary Americans would be much more effective than his own presidential candidacy.
Ouch. But let's end on a lighter note, Clement, and there's an invention by a British bakery chain called Greggs that wants to fight against the rising levels of obesity in the United Kingdom.
Yes, hold on to your seat because you're going to be absolutely blown away. Well, Eve, I'm sure you will agree with me that when it comes to healthy eating and dieting, donuts are probably not the
first thing, no, definitely
that
not.
spring to mind. A single donut filled with jam actually contains between 300 and 400 calories. That's over a tenth of your recommended calorie intake. Well, Greggs has found the solution, cutting a hole in the middle.
Didn't that already exist?
You can see a picture of their brand new diet donut, as they call it. Well, it's just a regular ring donut, isn't
exactly.
it? And it contains as little as 200 calories.
Oh, well, then we may as well have a few of them. So the lesson there from that is, well, eat less and you'll get less fat, right?
Absolutely.
Clement Bonneau, thanks a lot for that insightful press review.